Namaskar. Okay. Yes. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
14th May 2022. Let's see which are the important articles from today's The Hindu newspaper. Yes, some important developments. Okay, Supreme Court declines to stay Jammu and Kashmir delimitation report. First page, you can see. Recently, we discussed about Jammu and Kashmir Delimitation Commission report. Okay, and there are some petitions in Supreme Court regarding stay on implementation of this report. But Supreme Court declined that, although it has asked the center to file affidavit on the exercise here, how it is going to carry out this. Okay, so we'll have follow-up if suppose substantial development happens in future related to it. Now, moving on. Yes, one more announcement on page number 4. GS Foundation batch is going to start from 16th May at Lukmaan IS. So that is from Monday onwards. Okay, so first module is geography module, and I am itself is going to conduct this module. So it is starting on 16th May at morning 11 am. So those who are interested in joining the foundation batch, or even the module wise admission can be taken. So if you are interested in only geography module, so you can inquire about that also, you can take admission for that also. Yes, now come to page number 6, editorial page, page number 8 in today's newspaper. Yes, 3 important articles on left hand side, 2 editorials, full circle. So inflation, we discussed one article in recent past regarding increase in retail inflation. Again we will discuss the same with the same context. This article is written, GS3 paper economy part. On bottom side, reforming WHO. This is new topic, we should cover it because reforms in international institutions, this is very important aspect of GS2 paper IR section. Okay, almost every year or alternate year there is question related to reforms in international organizations, be it UN, UNSC or UN ECOSEC or UNESCO also. So there can be question on WHO also now related to it. Why? Because in last 2 years there has been questioning on the efficacy of WHO in dealing with this pandemic. Okay, and recently in one of the summit, our Prime Minister again highlighted this, let's say WHO's capability to deal with the pandemic. So WHO reforms, this debate is again in question, again in news, so we will cover this part also. Then action that corrode the steel frame of India. Very important article from GS2 paper polity, GS4 paper ethics, also public administration optional subject. It talks about the civil service neutrality, this value of neutrality, how it is important, and at present how it is getting eroded, simply how it is resulting into corrosion of the steel frame of India as envisioned by our first Home Minister Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Okay, so the article is giving good example, international example, that is the Partygate scandal that happened in UK. Okay, during the we can say Christmas time, last year during the Christmas time. So we will talk about that, how this event was investigated by the independent, let's say or honest and those having integrity, these civil servants, and how these ministers, including Prime Minister of UK, they had to accept the decision of these civil servants. Okay, so we will find out let's say details. We can write this in our answer also, give reference to these examples. Now on page number 10, China, Russia, Pakistan to attend SCO anti-terror meet in Delhi. This is going to be important development. Shanghai Cooperation Organization, RATS, that is we can say regional anti-terror structure, RATS. It is permanent, let's say institutional structure of SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Yes, so China and Pakistan representatives are going to participate. So this is going to be first such meeting between India and, let's say, representatives of China after the standoff, LAC standoff in 2020. So to some extent it will create the good relations, or let's say platform for further talks between bilateral talks between two countries. The outcome of this visit we'll discuss later on. But the basics of SCO will cover from prelims perspective. Okay. Yes, our Prime Minister is scheduled to visit next week to Nepal. Okay, and yes, the talks on hydropower connectivity will be the highlight in that meeting. Recently, the Prime Minister of Nepal also visited India. If you remember, we covered the important outcome of that visit. Again, our Prime Minister will visit Nepal. So, thereafter we'll discuss this part. One more news, Sri Lanka to get fertilizers from India. We are having this follow-up on Sri Lankan crisis and how India is helping Sri Lanka. You should be aware, since, let's say, January month of this year, we have extended more than $2.5 billion help to cash-strapped Sri Lanka. As well as we can say we are providing some, let's say, essential medicines or fuel, and now the fertilizer for next agriculture or farming season in Sri Lanka. So this is also important development. Why? Because the crisis, one of the main reason for crisis is low production of food grains in Sri Lanka in last year. And because of that, let's say the prices of food grains have increased a lot. Okay, so remember we are having this follow-up how India is helping Sri Lanka. Yes. Moving on page number 12. ISRO test booster for Gaganyaan. Okay, so this booster, there will be two boosters used in the rocket that will be used in the, let's say, launch of Gaganyaan. That rocket will be GSLV Mark 3 rocket. Okay, so the booster named HS200. HS200. This is having solid propellant. This has been successfully, tested by ISRO here, and this is first step we can say towards launch of Gaganyaan mission. Gaganyaan will be India's first manned space mission. Okay, so remember this can be asked in the prelims examination also. Okay, monsoon to arrive early over Kerala. Fine, जब arrive होगा तभी देखेंगे हम उसको. Many times, let's say, IMD prediction may go wrong. Okay, so अभी time है उसके लिए काफ़ी. So we can skip that part here. Fine. One more topic we wanted to discuss here on page number 9. On page number 9, ground zero, it talks about an industry barely hanging by a thread. So jute industry in Hooghly Basin, West Bengal, how it is relevant to our examination?
Sir, jute industry, rainfall needed for education.
Syllabus topic pinpointed, tell me.
Sir, GS3 and GS1.
Economy but industry.
That is fine, but pinpointed, if you remember the syllabus, direct question can be asked on this.
Related to economy and livelihood.
GS1 paper geography part.
Yes, sir. 1 and 3.
Factors responsible for location of particular industry.
Right, sir.
Jute industry is very important in Hooghly Basin because more than 90% of jute production is there in Hooghly Basin region, and all industries are located in that region only. Okay, and that industry is facing some crisis here. With this context, we will go to the factors, or we will find out these factors responsible for location of this industry. UPSC will not ask the crisis that is going on at present. रादर इट विल आस्क बेसिक्स. ठीक है, तो GS1 में हमें वो फैक्टर्स ढूंढने हैं सारे. ओके, यस, लेट अस डिस्कस these articles now. First, actions that corrode the steel frame of India. See, the context of writing this article is recently a group of retired civil servants have written one letter, open letter to Prime Minister regarding, increasing the hatred, hate speeches, and we can say violence against the minority communities in India. Okay, and some days after that, another group of retired civil servants wrote the counter letter to Prime Minister saying that it is a kind of, propaganda. Okay, propaganda by international pressure groups or lobbyists. So this is, let's say, the context of writing this article. But the writer is specifically mentioning that both letters do not speak about what is the role and responsibility of civil servants in reducing that hate speech or violence or ensuring public order. So basically it is political in nature. Whatever they are talking is political in nature. Rather, they should have been talking about the role of civil servants, how they need to be neutral, how they need to ensure honesty and integrity while performing their duties. ये टॉपिक नहीं डिस्कस किया है उन्होंने. Right, they are retired civil servants, some of them may be eminent persons, they can act as a role model for the, let's say, those at present working. But yes, one should understand that civil servants and not politicians are mandated by law in India for ensuring public order, law and order in the country. They are also given power to enforce these laws. Okay, irrespective of position, whether it is minister or not, or common people, any rich people, poor people. Okay, so civil servants are authorized and empowered by law to take preventive action against potential troublemakers, enforce the laws relating to criminal, economic and other offences, and maintain public order. Okay, so who is having the power, actual power of implementing the law? The civil servants. Okay, so however, at present, what we are witnessing is some kind of alignment of civil servants with the political parties, politicians which are in power. Okay, so that affects the most important, or we can say one of the most important civil service value, that is civil service neutrality. Okay, so what we can take lesson from this example. So here, the Partygate scandal in UK, basically the Prime Minister of UK and Finance Minister, there were allegations that they participated in the celebrations of Christmas at the home of Prime Minister despite of restrictions of gathering. Despite of restrictions of gathering due to, let's say, concerns of COVID-19, spread of this virus. Okay, so this was violation of rules and regulations. Okay, and thereafter one noted civil servant, or we can say the public servant there, was given the responsibility to inquire into this incident. And she inquired this in an impartial and independent manner and found these two ministers guilty of that offence. Okay, Prime Minister, you can understand that in the parliamentary democracy, he is having the highest authority.
He is the boss.
Yes. So we adopted this, let's say, form of government from UK itself, right? And there in UK, where the origin is there of this, we can say, parliamentary democracy, how it is being implemented. Okay, role of civil servant. Now, it is not only that, let's say, the inquiry was independent, but later on the basis of finding of that inquiry, the London police had fined Prime Minister and Finance Minister, and that fine was accepted by these politicians and it was paid. So you can understand how independent and honest civil servants are, we can say, the important for any democracy here. Okay, use this example in your answer, be it, let's say, related to, suppose there is polity related essay also. You can use this example in essay also. Okay. Now, an erosion of civil service values in India. Now, what we find in India, despite of having same form of government, parliamentary form of government, we find that these values are compromised in day-to-day delivery of duties or performance of duties by civil servant. And that too, for what reasons? Because we know that these political executives can, give some favorable postings, some kind of favor, disfavor can be done. So for these reasons, basically, they are doing such kind of things. At the same time, in the past, the civil servants had stature, especially during 1950s and 60s. But the corrosion started later on. Okay, in 1970s and onwards, the corrosion started, the committed bureaucracy emerged during Indira Gandhi rule. We all know about this. There was question in GS4 paper. There was one, let's say, case study, if you remember. The committed bureaucracy and all was explained in that case study. You should know. Yes, clearly it was mentioned. Okay, so now we should understand that when there was a stature of civil servant, and suppose that, let's say, the violence or riots happens in certain area, then the immediate priority of the civil servants used to be ensuring public order and stopping that violence. But nowadays, what we observe? The blame game is there. At present, the blame game is there. Okay, that particular party, particular politician is involved. Basically, the priority should be ensuring public order. That is the responsibility. But there is some kind of blame game by the police institutions also, law enforcement agencies also. Okay, so this is actually, we can say, erosion of civil service values in India. It is also a fodder for, we can say, corruption in civil service. Okay, so corruption is not always in terms of, tangible terms, but it is also moral corruption. Okay, moral corruption in terms of not adhering to the civil service values. That is also moral corruption.
Even not performing the duty.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
That was asked. Non-performance of duties can be also considered as
Kind of
corruption.
Right, sir.
Okay, so now non-negotiable values of civil servants. Now, what are these non-negotiable values? You should know. First of all is civil services neutrality.
Yes, sir.
Now, what do you mean by civil services neutrality?
Non-allegiance to any political party or ideology.
Is it only that part?
Sir, unbiased, political neutrality
Impartial.
as well as
Impersonal.
Yes, sir.
All religion.
Impartial.
See,
Include 3 points, sir.
independent thought and action. Impartial and objective advice to the minister.
Unbiased, sir.
Yes. Impartial and objective advice to the minister. Okay, so this is, we can say, civil service neutrality. And this civil service neutrality value is, to some extent, we can say, adopted. It is externally, but this needs to be complemented by internal values of, we can say, honesty, integrity, professional pride, dignity of that position,
Right.
institution. है ना, जैसे सिंघम में मूवी में एंड में उनकी डिग्निटी जाग जाती है ना, सारे पुलिस एकदम नहीं, अभी इंस्टीट्यूशन की बात है, ठीक है, सारे एकजुट हो जाते हैं. तो बेसिकली this is how we should understand. These are internal and this is external, we can say, because it is associated with that institution. Neutrality. Okay, neutrality and anonymity, these values generally we consider together. Now, these are very essential. Why? Because in India, the civil service or bureaucracy are permanent executives. Okay, while the political executives, they change after every 5 years. Okay, so the implementation of laws, policies in India, they needs to be having some independent thought and action. If suppose they are aligned to always aligned to, let's say, the political executives which are in power, then there will not be governance in the country.
Yes,
The long term objectives of growth or development may not happen if suppose they are aligned to the political
right,
executives.
sir.
At the same time, the political executives, they many times tend to have populist policy. Okay, and that may result into, the disturbance in the society, harmony. Okay, so of course the responsibility of ensuring public order, law and order, it is a very important aspect for progress of any country. Okay, understood? Fine. Now, moving on. Full circle. Inflation control. Recently we have seen there is increase in CPI. April month, 8.3%, sorry, it has accelerated to 7.79% in April 2022, last month, which is very much near to 8.3 level of May 2014, when the present government came in power for the first time. NDA government 2014 में जब power में आया, तब सबसे ज़्यादा inflation था, काफ़ी ज़्यादा मतलब. So it is nearing to that level now. Okay, also it is higher than 6%, the higher we can say limit threshold for maintaining this retail inflation. So the major we can say concern within CPI is food and fuel. Of course, we know that crude oil prices, natural gas, even coal, okay, all these fuel prices have substantially increased, especially after this Ukraine-Russia war also.
Right, sir.
Already the prices were increasing as the economies around the world were recovering from this pandemic impact. And again it was aggravated by this war in Ukraine.
Right, sir.
Now the food prices, especially within the food component, edible oil,
Yes.
in analysis we should understand this, as well as what we observed last month, the cereal components. This is substantially increased in last 1 month. Cereals includes wheat, rice, jawar. Okay, and this component has increased, and this will have significant impact on poor people in India, because it is staple diet of Indians, wheat and rice. And if its prices are increasing at very faster rate, then who is going to have disproportionate impact? Again, the poor people. Okay, so there is need of control of this. At the same time, we should understand that this year the harvest, wheat harvest has been lower than the estimated. Okay, and therefore there is speculation of prices of wheat in Indian market. Because of that also there is high prices of these food grains. Okay, you should understand the reasons why it is increasing. At the same time, international prices of wheat are also high because the supply shocks from Russia and Ukraine. Okay, around 25% of world's, let's say, supply of wheat is from Ukraine and Russia.
Right, sir.
Okay, so this aspect. Then edible oil. Okay, so Ukraine is the major supplier of sunflower oil, but it is not able to supply that because of war, and therefore India is now very much dependent on this palm oil.
So Indonesia is also not supplying.
Yes, Indonesia is not supplying, it is having export ban to deal with the domestic demand and the high prices of crude oil in the domestic markets. Not crude oil, sorry, palm oil. Okay, so domestic prices are very high, and there are some, let's say, concerns in domestic market related to, we can say, cartelization happening, and because of that artificial price rise is happening there. So it is dealing with that situation, Indonesian government. So export ban are there, and if it continues for a long time, again the edible oil prices will be much higher in near future. Okay, so this is the situation at present. Now, way forward, of course, both at monetary policy and fiscal policy, yesterday or day before yesterday we talked about this, same thing is mentioned. The fiscal policy makers, they have the task at present to ensure that poor people do not face the brunt of inflation. And for that, what they can do, they can cut the taxes on, we can say, petroleum products, petrol and diesel. They can cut the import duty on palm oil, or we can say other edible oils from the international market. So this is the immediate aspect, but monetary policy is responsible to ensure the inflation do not get into, let's say, out of hand, and for that purpose it is working on monetary policy tools. Recently it has increased the policy rates, and in future we can expect that it will try to have such kind of contractionary monetary policy. Okay, yes. Reforming WHO. First of all, why it is in news? Our Prime Minister once again brought up much discussed issue of reforming World Health Organization WHO while addressing heads of countries at second global COVID-19 summit. Okay, second global COVID-19 summit. So, first of all, we should understand why reforms are required in WHO. Yes, the reforms are required first of all because at present there is no binding mechanism on states. On countries to report on whatever the, let's say, disease outbreak is happening in that country which may impact the global health. Okay, so that data that needs to be reported to WHO at earliest. There should be some binding mechanism. At present it is not there. So it is not having those powers. What we observe here during pandemic time, in the initial time of pandemic, China did not provide the essential information, vital information related to this novel coronavirus at the earliest, and later on the virus spread to different parts of the world. Okay, at the same time it did not give the free access to the WHO investigators to find out the origin of this virus. Okay, so China was very much hesitant. It did not provide complete access.
Even sir, WHO was very reluctant to declare COVID as pandemic.
Yes, that we can say that further dealing with this pandemic.
Yes, sir.
It was also questioned. Initially, it was hesitant to declare it as pandemic. It was continuously, observing this situation, and yes, to some extent, China is having very strong influence in WHO.
Right, sir.
In terms of scientific community as well as in terms of funding. Okay, and that's why it did not take strong action at the initial times, we can say. This was also questioned here. Then the different, let's say, changes in the stand by WHO. Initially it said that the masks are not effective.
Not compulsory, sir.
Not compulsory, not effective in spread, let's say, control in the spread of this infection or virus. Later on it said that it is helpful. Okay, so such kind of changes in the rules and, let's say, regulations or advisories, it shows that WHO was not having credibility.
So isn't this reactionary by Indian government?
Sorry?
So isn't this reactionary?
Reactional. Yes, we can understand it is reactional. Novel coronavirus was also new. Simply we can understand that. But when the information, sufficient information was gathered by WHO, it was expected it will, let's say, send advisories to different countries around the world. Okay, but there was delayed response. What you should write in answer? It was delayed response. Instead of reactive, what we can say, delayed response to different, let's say, developments in COVID-19. Okay, then
Sir, without any scientific facts, WHO declared that the malaria drug chloroquine is also effective in COVID-19, but it was not.
yes. Initial times, again, the drug-related policy in let's say, dealing with pandemic. So earlier it had said that some drugs are effective. Later on, it was found that they were not effective.
Right, sir.
But yes, we can understand that it was new to even WHO also. Okay,
Yes,
so simply we can say that once they understood, there should be strong response. Okay, now the finance. There is no, let's say, compulsory finance by the members of WHO at present. Okay, and the compulsory finance is, we can say, less than 1/4 of total budget of WHO. WHO largely works on voluntary funding by countries and some of the, let's say, NGOs or international organizations. Okay, non-profit organizations जो होते हैं या फिर जो philanthropist होते हैं,
Mainly funded by USA.
USA or philanthropic organizations जो होते हैं, like Bill and Melinda Gates is there. Okay, so they finance the WHO organization, its budget. So of course it is having less capacity for having strong response here. So here in way forward you write about all this. So there should be binding mechanism. When suppose we are talking about WHO reforms, there should be binding mechanism that all countries, if suppose a particular disease outbreak is happening in that country, it should immediately convey that information to WHO so that it does not become the global pandemic. Then the finance related, there should be compulsory financing by the member states, especially according to its capacity. Capacity, what we can say that its economy. Okay, so like for example IMF. So how IMF works in terms of its, let's say, economy, it is having quota system.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and accordingly it is, we can say that amount of money is to be given in terms of credit to IMF. IMF further lends to different members. This is how it works, right? So in the same manner, all members can be, there should be compulsion on financing this organization so that there is strong response by the WHO with further pandemics or all those disease spreading. Okay, then lastly talk about governance. Governance structure. So there should be regular meeting of WHO. Okay, so heads of the governments, they should be meeting under the, let's say, or whatever the WHO summits are happening or meetings are happening, the heads of the government, they should participate, they should deliberate here, and these meetings should regularly happen. ये regular नहीं होता है, ठीक है? कोई एक बहुत बड़ा concern होता है तभी वो सारे मिलके बात करते हैं. Okay, and in governance you talk about accountability also. Accountability mechanism should be there. If suppose there is, let's say, lack of governance, there is lack of, we can say, such kind of problem happens, delayed response, there should be investigation. Why such a delayed response happened? Okay, now our Prime Minister also expressed one concern here, and that is delay in giving emergency use approval for Covaxin.
Right, sir.
Okay, but we should not write this in criticism. Why? Because simply understand that WHO will not be impartial for a particular vaccine of the country, because other vaccines got approval, like the Serum Institute of India is let's say क्या नाम था अपना, हाँ कोविशील्ड, ठीक है, भूल भी गए, देखो मैंने खुद लिया हुआ है फिर भी मैं भूल गया, मतलब इंसान जो है वो भूल जाता है, 2 साल बाद सब पैंडेमिक भी भूल जाएंगे, है ना. Yes, so this other vaccines got approval and Covaxin did not get approval, but government of India was concerned because simply understand ICMR was involved, government itself was involved in development of that vaccine. Okay, but yes, simply understand the criteria for giving approval is foolproof by WHO. It was seeking more data from the company. Okay, and accordingly company later provided that data and then approval was given. So simply understand that there should not be dilution of that mechanism. Okay, so we should not write that in problem.
So it's not the criticism.
It is not the criticism. Although our Prime Minister criticized for that, but it is not appropriate criticism. Okay, yes. Now moving on, the factors affecting location of jute industry. So we are talking about this GS1 paper geography. There can be sure question on this. Okay, so first see, writing factors in 150 words and that to such 7-8 factors is very difficult. So in the first part itself draw this diagram mentioning all factors and only explain 4 to 5 or maximum 6 factors. Okay.
But few of them are common in everything.
Yes, they are common in everything, but some specific points we should write here.
Right.
Now, soil and climatic condition, first one. You should write in priority manner also. सबसे important कौन से है? So, yes, fertile alluvium soil. Okay, so which is flood prone area. Continuous new deposits are deposited by Hooghly river. So this is fertile soil. Climatic conditions are also suitable for growth of jute crop. Along with that, the industry is located in that region. That climate is good. Why? It is hot and humid. It is good for spinning purpose for jute industry. जैसे textile में होता है. In Bombay we write, in Mumbai we write that why climatic factor is important. Spinning and weaving is good when we talk about textile. So be it cotton textile or jute textile. So it requires humid environment, humid climate. So the long staples will come in the humid climate. Okay, so this climate is good for jute crop growth as well as later on in the industry. Then raw material supply. So of course first important raw material supply is jute itself. So more than 90 or 95% jute production in India happens in West Bengal, and that too 100-kilometer belt of Hooghly river. Okay, so majority of raw material is available there itself. So all these industries are located there. At the same time, it is also very bulky raw material. So rather than locating away from the raw material, they are located near. Then early start was provided by Britishers. Before independence itself, there was start of jute industry in that region. There at that time, let's say Pakistan or Bangladesh was part of India, and together it was the largest in the world, that jute producing area. Okay, so early start was provided by the Britishers. There was investment in that region by the British capitalist. Initial capital was provided, investment was done. So this was early start. Then huge market is available in the plains region. Simply the major market for jute is gunny bags, and these gunny bags are used largely for food grain transportation and storage. Food grain transportation and storage. Now which is the major food grain producing area? North Indian plains.
Yes, sir.
North Indian plains. And it is located, this region is located near to that region, we can say, or it can be, you know,
Part of
yes, part of North Indian plains, and it is located near. So huge market is available.
right, sir.
Then cheap labor, yes. See, it is labor intensive industry, and cheap labor is available from the nearby states of Bihar, Odisha, Jharkhand, Uttar Pradesh.
Even sir, Bengal has the second highest density.
Yes, even we can say West Bengal itself, cheap labor is available abundantly. Then power. Yes, in initial times it was the power availability was there because of Damodar Valley Corporation. Okay.
Near to coal area.
Yes, DVC. It is located near to coal area also, and Damodar Valley Corporation provided hydropower also.
Both, sir.
Then fresh water supply is very much essential because the jute is washed before processed, and that washing requires, let's say, it is water intensive activity. So fresh water supply is required, and Hooghly river round the year provides fresh water supply. This is also important component, we can say. Now we can write this one first. Transportation. Transportation in the domestic market, transportation outside India also for export. Kolkata port is located near to this region.
Hooghly port.
Okay, for export as well as import of some machinery. Okay, so capital investment happens, and that the capital machinery is required, heavy machinery is required, that is imported. Jute is exported from that port. At the same time, internal transport, very cheap transport mode is available. What is that?
It's a river transportation system.
National Inland Waterway 1.
One is from
Yes. कहाँ से है?
Prayagraj. One is
Yes, Prayagraj to Hooghly.
Prayagraj to Hooghly.
Okay, it is complete navigable stretch of Ganga river.
Yes.
Okay, so simply understand this also provides cheap transportation.
Right, sir.
Okay, so then lastly, government support. How government is supporting jute industry?
So in terms of giving credit as well as
Yes.
giving license.
Bulkar with ground,
Finance.
compulsory packaging.
Yes, very good. Compulsory baggaging or compulsory use
Yes, sir.
by FCI, Food Corporation of India,
And sugar.
the largest buyer of gunny bags from this jute industry.
Even sir, jute bags are very common in Delhi also.
Yes, simply food grain transportation and storage happens in gunny bags, and there is compulsion by government of India also. Okay.
Sir, in day-to-day practice like Khadi India and many government sector, we use jute bags.
Yes, yes, yes.
In our market,
It
when
is-
plastic is banned in many states.
Yes,
and
it is being promoted by the government, and we should understand it is labor intensive, so it is a kind of welfare policy also by the government promoting this industry.
Right.
Fine, and it is sustainable, and sustainable in terms of environment.
Environment friendly, yes.
Right, so use of plastic is harmful for environment or any other synthetic fibers. Okay, so alternative jute is being promoted, environmentally sustainable. Now what are the challenges to this, वो भी cover कर लेते हैं. Challenges to this industry. The major challenge comes from,
Bangladesh.
yes, competition from Bangladesh. After partition, major, let's say, jute producing area went to Bangladesh.
Right, sir.
Major jute producing area. And after independence, we had to import jute from Bangladesh
Right.
so as to satisfy raw material requirements of Indian jute industry. And this, let's say, industry is saturating now. It is saturating. Why? Because there is not more demand. ठीक है?
We are poor in quality terms also.
दैट इज़ फाइन. अभी क्वालिटी ठीक है, इंटरनेशनल एक्सपोर्ट्स के लिए हम बोल सकते हैं, डोमेस्टिक के लिए क्वालिटी का इशू नहीं है. इंटरनेशनल यूज़ के लिए हो सकता है. Okay, but at present there is no largely demand. That's why it is getting saturated. At the same time, there is very huge competition from alternatives available, synthetic fibers. Okay, so आप देखते हैं कि कुछ कुछ फूड ग्रेन्स जो होता है वो वाइट कलर के सिंथेटिक फाइबर्स वाले बैग्स में भी होते हैं इंस्टेड ऑफ गनी बैग्स, है ना. हाँ, फर्टिलाइजर्स हो या बाकी सब चीज़ें जो है. सो basically, yes, that is also true. So of course there is stiff competition from the alternatives. Okay, so these are the important, we can say, yes, challenges at present. And along with that there is labor shortage. This industry is experiencing labor shortage as well as labor unrest. Okay, labor shortage as well as labor unrest in terms of wages and all. ठीक है, तो वो सारी चीज़ें हैं यहाँ पर. अगर डिमांड नहीं होगा, प्रोडक्शन नहीं बढ़ेगा, तो वेजेस कहाँ से देंगे इंडस्ट्री भी. ओके, फाइन. मूविंग ऑन. श्रीलंका टू गेट फर्टिलाइजर्स फ्रॉम इंडिया. Okay, India decided to supply 65,000 metric tons of urea required for current Yala cultivation season. Yala cultivation season, वहाँ पे डोमेस्टिक नाम होगा वो, between May and August. Okay, this is specifically for that equatorial country Sri Lanka, and that is for largely, we can say, rice cultivation. Okay, yes. You should understand soaring food prices in Sri Lanka have added to economic difficulties, and any setback to the next paddy cultivation season will be hard for island to bear. So India is helping in terms of fertilizer also. In the past, essential medicines, fuel supply, we have provided credit facility for fuel supply also. Okay. ISRO test booster for Gaganyaan. Okay, this is important development. Gaganyaan is going to be India's first manned mission to the space. It has carried out static test of HS-200 solid rocket booster. The test was held at Satish Dhawan Space Center, Sriharikota. Designed and developed by Vikram Sarabhai Space Center in Thiruvananthapuram for over 2 years. This HS-200 booster is human-rated version of S-200 rocket boosters used on the geosynchronous satellite launch vehicles MK3. Okay, GSLV MK3 we call it as. This will be used for Gaganyaan mission. Now, there will be 2 such HS-200 boosters that will supply the thrust for liftoff for Gaganyaan mission. HS-200 20-meter long booster with diameter of 3.2 meters is world's second largest operational booster using solid propellants. Then, since Gaganyaan is manned mission, GSLV MK3 will have improvements to increase reliability and safety to meet the requirements of human rating. Now, of the 3 propulsion stages of GSLV MK3, the second stage uses liquid propellant, while the third is cryogenic stage. So first solid, second liquid, third cryogenic. Cryogenic also involves, we can say, storage of this liquid in terms of very low temperature. Gaseous fuels converted into liquid so that more fuel is stored. Cryogenic. Cryogenic liquid होता है. Okay, so now China, Russia, Pakistan to attend SCO anti-terror meet in Delhi. Okay, counter-terrorism teams from Russia, China, Pakistan, Central Asian countries will gather in Delhi on this weekend ahead of Shanghai Cooperation Organization's Regional Anti-Terror Structure Meeting, RATS. Okay, the basics of SCO we will discuss now, but these are the first such official discussions to be held in India since standoff along LAC where Chinese PLA transcased into India in 2020. At the same time, since Russian invasion in Ukraine this year. Okay, so basics you should know that India is expected to host SCO summit in 2023, which would see leaders of 8-member grouping. We will talk about this grouping also. So in 2023 we can expect India is going to host. Fine. Now basics of SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Prior to its creation of SCO in 2001, there were 5 members together: Kazakhstan, China, Kyrgyzstan, Russia, Tajikistan. They were called as Shanghai 5. This Shanghai 5 was converted into SCO in 2001. Okay, following the accession of Uzbekistan into organization in 2001. Now, this is Eurasian political, economic and military organization. See, it is unique kind of organization. Largely, majority of these political organizations, they only deal with political and economic aspects. And if suppose they are military organizations, they are purely military organizations, like NATO. Like NATO, it is purely, we can say, military organization. Okay.
That is also political, economical and military.
Which one?
What, sir?
Quad? No, it is not military. If you say it is military, China will be, very angry. So we always maintain that it is not military.
But all the 4 members.
No, that is fine. See, we have been continuously working on the defense cooperation, and that is growing, but not on the platform of Quad.
Even we are not accepted globally that it's a military grouping, but it is.
Now it is symmetry. Last year there was first head level summit of Quad grouping. So it is summit level now. It is summit level. Okay, so this is unique. Why? Because it is economic also, as well as military also. So it is integrating all 3 aspects. You should also understand it is bringing major Asian powers together. Russia, China, and in 2017 it added India and Pakistan also. So it is one such platform outside South Asia where India and Pakistan is also member, along with China and Russia, which have been cooperating with India as well as Pakistan, especially defense cooperation. Okay, Russia is having good defense cooperation both with Pakistan and India. China largely is having defense cooperation with Pakistan. India is having economic cooperation with China, okay, in terms of trade. So all these are very important. So that's why significance of SCO for Asia region. At present there are total 8 members now: Kazakhstan, China, Kyrgyzstan, Russia, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, India, Pakistan. Okay, so Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan. These 4 members we can say are Central Asian members. Okay, they are part of Central Asia. Which one is not there? Yes, so Turkmenistan is not there. Okay, remaining 4 are there, and then there is Russia, China, India, Pakistan. Secretariat is located in Beijing, and official languages are Russian and Chinese. It is not English. Okay, so Russian and Chinese. Now, regional anti-terror structure, RATS, is the permanent organ of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. It is for anti-terrorist activities, dealing with anti-terrorist activities, we can say. So it serves to promote cooperation of member states against 3 evils of terrorism, separatism and extremism. And its headquarter is in Tashkent, Uzbekistan. Okay, so it is having separate headquarter, RATS. And under RATS there are different military exercises are carried out by these members. For example, you can see here, in October, joint anti-terrorist exercise titled Manesar Anti-Terror 2022 will be held on NSG training campus in Manesar, and it will be followed by another joint border operation of SCO member states called as Friendship Border 2022 in Kazakhstan.
Right.
Okay, Friendship Border 2020 and Manesar Anti-Terror 2022, both this year. Okay. Now, simple question. Okay. So remember this. See, UPSC asks such questions. Out of 100 questions, 2-3 questions will be so simple only for those students who are very sincere. Okay, they are studying throughout the year and they are following the important news. So for them it is very easy. But simply those who are not, sincere students, for them this will be difficult question because it is factual in nature. And if they are not knowing about this institution, simply they cannot attempt it. Right? One more question. On member states of these regional organizations, they are asking questions. So Afghanistan is not the member, right? Yes. Remaining are the members. There can be Turkmenistan also in the option. Remember that also.
Having observatory status.
Fine. Observatory status UPSC will not ask. Okay? Yes. Fine. Any question?
Afghanistan having observatory status?
Done.
Fine? Okay. Let us stop then.